All right. Welcome back to another episode of Palm Blisters podcast. This is episode 9, 10. I always forget.
I believe this is
Uh,
10.
is it
Is it
10? Yeah,
10?
it's 10.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is crazy.
We're in the
But
double digits.
yeah, this week is a little different, obviously. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet in person, so we're gonna do this on Zoom. But yeah, this week we're gonna talk a little about indie games as well as maybe even touch up on the Nintendo Direct that went on today. And yeah.
Okay.
So I guess a good question to start it off is what is your guys' all-time favorite indie game?
Ooh, good question. Um, does Cuphead count as an indie game?
I
I
think so, yeah.
I think so.
okay. I would say that's probably my favorite then.
Cuphead, I do love Cuphead, but I remember like literally me and my roommate like has it and we spent I think like 3 or 4 hours on like just one level and we
Oh
just
yeah.
gave up because we were so pissed off like we couldn't
It's
beat it.
like the hardest game I've ever played.
I know, and like I've played games like Dark Souls and like
Yeah,
Bloodborne
same.
and all that stuff,
But
which are like
they aren't
enjoyable.
as bad as Cuphead as far as like
No,
difficulty.
I've
yeah,
heard
they,
Cuphead's pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
it is.
It looked really
Um,
cool though, like all the hand-drawn animations.
I really love the art style.
yeah,
Yeah.
the art style is awesome. It definitely is what makes the game like really appealing. And
Yeah.
I think they made a didn't they make a TV show out of it?
Yeah, it was on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah, they made
Yeah,
a
I
Netflix
haven't
series.
watched it though. I'm
yeah. Neither have
not sure if
I.
it's any good.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much about it. Like, is it more like a kids show or is it like?
I don't
I mean,
think
I
so.
think I
I
think
think
it's
it's
centered towards I mean, at least it's general audiences.
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, well, recently, I mean, I mentioned on the podcast that like one of my favorite indie games of all time is Hollow Knight, and we were talking about it before in the podcast that this Nintendo Direct today, like there was rumors that the new Hollow Knight game, Hollow Knight Silk Song, was going to be the headliner,
Hmm.
um, but it seems like that wasn't the case. However, people are seeing that um like Xbox and I think like PlayStation, like they put it up on the store, I think. Like just showing that like, oh, it's coming soon kind of thing, but there's still no like actual release date or when it's coming. So like people are like, oh, there's probably gonna be a release date soon. I hope there is, because I've
Yeah.
been looking forward to that game for the longest time because the first Hollow Knight was just fantastic.
When
Uh,
did the
I
first one
still have
come
to
out?
like
uh
2017.
was it
Okay, so it's
2017?
been quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And this game's been in development since I want to say like 2018, 2019.
I've
That's when it
still
was
got
like
to beat the original.
first rumored. But yeah. But recently, like for indie games, like I usually I don't play too many indie games, but this past weekend I went up to Penn State and my buddy, he's big into like roguelike games. Do you guys know what those games are? Roguelike games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like randomly generated levels. You sort of try and go deeper. You die, you lose your progress, but you have a little bit of stuff to restart over.
Exactly. And like the like you're like progressing through and like you're getting upgrades to like upgrade your run. Um Games like that, they're like, like Binding of Isaac, which is a great I played that for a while. Binding of Isaac's a lot of fun. And then the game I was gonna mention is this past weekend my buddy showed me this game. It's called Balatro. And it's a roguelike game, but it's a very different twist because I feel like a lot of roguelike games now are like just like you're defeating monsters or like you're shooting something or and like you're upgrading your weapons. But this game, it's all about cards. It's like but like poker. So you have to like try and play the best poker hand, and then you're trying to meet like a certain chip count, and you get like all these different upgrades. Like there's these Joker cards that'll be like, oh, this will be like a multiplier for every time you play like a card that is a club or a heart and stuff like that. And it's a really neat twist on like the roguelike genre. And I've been playing it nonstop. Like I played it this past week, like was the first time I played it. And I told my buddy, I'm like, when I go home, I am immediately buying this game. I don't care how much money I don't have. I am buying this game. It was like $15, but like still, I've been
It's not
playing it
bad.
like every day. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that
Have
sounds like fun.
have
Yeah.
any played a game called Hades?
Yes.
Hades, I
I
haven't
played a
played
little
it, but
bit
I've
of it.
watched quite a bit of gameplay by like YouTubers and streamers, and it looks like a blast.
Yeah.
I
Um,
want to play it myself, and it got a lot of good reviews and awards when it came out.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't it win like Indie Game of the Year or some
It
award
did,
like
yeah.
that?
Hmm.
Yeah. And it deserved it, especially during that year, because I remember playing that when it came out. Because like I said, I'm a big fan of roguelike games, and that game was just so much fun. Like it was like I don't know. They just had like I love the art style of it. It was really cool, like kind of cartoonish, but like also like kind of like hand drawn. Like it was a really interesting style, and I that's what stands out to me like with a lot of games nowadays is like the art style, especially when it comes to indie games. Um, like that's why like I love Hollow Knight and like even Binding of Isaac. I just like the pixely kind of art style.
I mean,
Yeah.
a game I really like. I was holding it up earlier, the gag, but I didn't say. But my one of my favorite indie games is Shovel Knight.
Yes.
Oh,
That's a big
nice.
Nintendo NES Entertainment System throwback, with
Hmm.
some liberties taken so they can have wider color palettes on screen since they could display less on the NES. But that's a game I really like because it just got so many like great looking character designs and stuff, and they all fit it into that 8-bit sort of style, like that
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
of resolution. And if you buy, also, I have the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove here. If you buy Shovel Knight on Steam for with the Treasure Trove version, you're basically getting 5 games in one because they released 4 different expansions, like DLCs. They're basically full-length games on their own.
Really? I didn't.
Yeah, 3 of the DLC. One of the Kickstarter stretch goals for Shovel Knight would be that they would add expansions for playing as different bosses, and then they did a fan vote to pick the bosses out. But as they worked on him, the first campaign was the first expansion was for the Plague Knight boss, who was just sort of remixed versions of the original levels.
Hmm.
And then they did the Spectre Knight expansion, where they actually got way more into it and basically created whole new levels for him, like a whole new move set. And they followed that up with the third campaign expansion, King of Cards, which was where you play as King Knight. He has
Hmm.
his own move set, his own levels. And then they did the last expansion is basically a Shovel Knight fighting game.
It's a fighting game? Like,
Like Street
Yeah,
Fighter
Shovel Knight
style?
Showdown. Nah, I'd say more like Smash Brothers.
Okay, cool.
oh, I'd be into that because I grew up off of Smash and I love Smash, you
I
know.
had no idea about all these expansions and DLCs that are
Yeah.
basically like full games. That's
Neither did
awesome.
Yeah,
I.
yeah,
I
like you can actually buy the individual games. They're basically their own individual games because you can buy them separately on Steam and other marketplaces.
Mhm.
But
Sweet.
the whole thing is only $50 if you're buying the Treasure Trove version of Shovel Knight, which is what I'm holding here. I'm just gonna keep holding
Well, that
this.
sounds worth it because that's what, like 5 games in one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How,
I've got like 50 hours on Steam for Shovel Knight, I think.
how
Wow.
much was it?
When I got it, it was only like $25, but then
What?
that was before the King Knight and Shovel Knight Showdown expansions, which raised the price a bit.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But even still, like, I feel like you're getting a
Yeah,
lot.
5 games for $50 is a great deal.
Yeah, like, are
Yeah,
you
for
kidding?
sure.
'Cause, like, you'll get a single game now for $70, and it's just outrageous.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's awesome. I might actually have to look into that because I've never actually played Shovel Knight
You gotta
myself.
play Shovel Knight. It's like one of the best indie games out there. I mean, I
Really?
think
Yeah.
some people have made Shovel Knight kind of a big face of indie games because there's a lot of indie games where he has a cameo or some kind of crossover.
Right, right.
Like there's that fighting game Rivals of Aether. He's a playable character. You guys remember that game Yooka-Laylee that came out a couple years ago? That was like a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Shovel Knight has a cameo in that game.
Oh. I did
I
know he
didn't
had a
know there was
cameo
a
in Rivals of
cameo in
Aether.
there.
Sorry, what'd you say, Chris?
I said I wasn't aware there was a cameo in that game.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Shovel Knight. That's cool.
I knew there was one for Rivals of Aether because I played that for a short time. Just because it's basically a Smash clone.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I got to try
And
Shovel Knight. I've only watched people play it. I've watched so many gameplay, and it looks fun. I just never had the, I guess chance to, well, I never really went out of my way to like fully just purchase it.
You know,
Never
same here.
came,
I watched a lot of like streamers and YouTubers play it, but I just
yeah,
never
Some
myself.
people have campaigned for Shovel Knight to be in Smash Brothers. I know he was in Ultimate as an assist trophy though, which is a start.
yeah, he
Mhm.
was, he was. Yeah. Now with the what's it called? The Nintendo Direct, did they fully wrap up with the everything?
Yeah, it was only half an
I
hour.
believe so.
No, it was only half an hour, damn. And so it seems like they only showcased new indie games, right?
Yeah, it was an indie
Yeah.
direct, not a
Oh,
Nintendo.
Indie Direct. Okay, that makes
That's
sense.
like a separate thing.
Yeah, I saw that they were making like a new Ninja Turtles game, and it's funny because I mean nowadays like I don't really care for Ninja Turtles, but back then I remember I used to have this one game on the GameCube. It was a Ninja Turtles game, and it was my favorite
Oh,
game ever. I forget what it was
I
called.
vaguely remember an
I
old.
think it's like Ninja Turtles Battle Nexus.
Yes,
Maybe.
I
I
think.
think I had that game. I also had the video game based off the 2007 movie,
Mm,
that
Oh, really?
CGI one.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
I never
that
watched that movie.
I don't think I ever watched the CGI ones at all. I just grew up like off the like watching the cartoon.
Yeah,
I
same.
didn't watch the CGI cartoon. I watched the cartoon that was like on Kids WB from
Hmm.
like
Mm,
2003.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Actually,
trying to I'm trying to watch the
funny because we're
Ninja
talking about
Turtles.
indie games. Ninja Turtles was originally an indie comic in the 80s before the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What were you saying, Dom?
actually recently bought a couple of.
Now I'm trying to watch the Ninja Turtles stuff lately. I'm watching 2003 cartoon,
Really?
which has been pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was
I
saying I
yeah.
recently bought like these collections of like that are reprints of the original 1980s comics they made from before the cartoon adaptation. And it's pretty cool just seeing like the original version of all these characters.
Yeah, I'm about to look up like the original.
Because like the Shredder, he's considered like the main bad guy of the whole
Yeah.
franchise. In the original Mirage comics, he dies in the first issue and he just stays dead.
Was he actually? Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like you can read these notes by the original creators and they mention, it's like, yeah, Shredder's like to people who grew up with the cartoon and everything else, they think Shredder's like this huge guy who always needs to be present. But for us, it's like, yeah, he's part of their backstory, but he's dead now, so we don't really care about him that much.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's
I
weird.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm just looking at like images from the original comic, and the art style is definitely different, but like from the first Ninja Turtles like film, like in the 90s, I think it was, looks pretty similar. Not like they definitely changed the
Yeah,
style a little bit, but
yeah. Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, the creators, had a lot more involvement in the live action movies than they did the 80s cartoon.
hmm.
Mhm.
Then the 2003 cartoon is like they actually directly adapt the comics a lot more.
Yeah.
We're getting off topic now, though. I mean, as much as I love Ninja Turtles,
Um,
Man, it's been a minute since I watched Ninja Turtle, so so long.
I'm trying to I've been trying to look for the Ninja Turtle game that I was talking about.
I feel like I
yeah,
played a Ninja Turtle game on PS2. I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe it was my friend's GameCube. Um,
TMNT Splintered Fate.
Oh, it was just straight up just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was made by Konami.
oh,
Konami.
I think
I
I
used
might
to play
have
that
played
game
that.
all the time with my brother. Um, I remember I used to always be what was it, Michelangelo with the nunchucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought he was the coolest.
Oh yeah, I think I see the game you're talking about. I had that one too. I never beat that game though. I think I remember getting to like a museum level and then just getting stuck on that one.
I forget the levels. Well, I remember one you're like fighting on like a rooftop at some point. Um,
Oh, I think
but
I played that on Wii actually, because I think
really,
there was a port to Wii.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
They've got a new AAA Ninja Turtles game in development.
really.
Yeah, it's based off this comic series that was made by the original creators. That was like a what if story where all three except one of the brothers is dead. And like, I mean, all three of the brothers except one is dead. and the surviving one has to sort of take out the remnants of the Foot Clan in this like cyberpunk version of New York City.
That sounds really cool. Do you know who's
Yeah.
making it? Like what studio?
I'm not sure. It's like very early development. They released like a teaser, I think, at some press conference last year,
Hmm.
but it was really but not much of a teaser. It was just like it showed a few images that are like their hints towards how some of the brothers died.
Nice.
It's not a big spoiler which turtle is like the surviving one, but I won't say if you guys don't want me to. Because I was like, when the original comic came out, that was like a thing they wanted to keep a mystery before the first issue.
Yeah, I guess we can keep it spoiler free.
Think, yeah.
All right.
All right, so I guess we should go back to indie games now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to
Um,
think of some good ones. Do you guys ever play Undertale?
Oh, yeah, I played, of course I played Undertale.
Nice.
You
you know,
played Deltarune at all?
No, I haven't played that.
that's
How
I've
like
what's
heard
that
the
about?
that's like the
it's
expansion, right?
it's a kind of a sequel to Undertale. It's like
Oh, seriously? Why did I
a
not know
totally
about
different
that?
continuity, but a lot of returning characters.
It's called Delta Room.
Deltarune, yeah. It's kind of like in development, but they released the first two chapters of the game for free.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I never played either, but you know it's funny? I found so many good songs from Undertale. Like I feel like they have such a good soundtrack.
It does
Great
have a very
soundtrack.
good soundtrack. I
Yeah.
mean, Toby Fox, the guy who made it, I know he was famous for his music before, a little famous for making music before it. I never read Homestuck, but I know like it had songs that would play with some of the comic pages, and he actually made a lot of that music.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
that was his first claim to fame before he made Undertale.
That's super cool.
Yeah, never put I've always wanted to play it, but I just never got around to it. My buddy had it too.
Mm.
Um I just never went over to play. But I did watch some people play it. I don't know. It just doesn't like it didn't seem like my type of game. I think that's why I never really got
I
into it.
mean, that's fair. It's not for
Not for
everyone, but
everyone, yeah. I
so
didn't, to be
although if you do
honest,
want,
I played it, but I didn't love it, if that makes sense. Like same with you, Liam, it's not really my type of game. I will say I do respect it though, like, and I really liked like the old school art style of it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I mean, I liked all of the characters. Undyne was like my favorite.
Hmm.
She's like the one-eyed fish warrior lady.
Right.
Yeah. And I heard like I remember my buddy telling me like he said like one of the best parts about the game is like there's like it might not seem like it, but that game like has like so much replayability.
It
'Cause,
does, yeah. There's like three different routes you can go on.
yeah.
There's pacifist where you don't kill everyone, and then there's genocide where you do kill everyone.
Hmm. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
one
Like
really cool aspect
yeah.
of the game is making that choice of like what route you want to go down. And
Like,
that's,
And
yeah, like you said, it makes it very replayable.
yeah.
then there's neutral. Oh yeah, because there's like a bunch of different versions of the neutral ending where
Yeah.
the neutral ending is where you kill some, you don't kill everyone, but you do kill a significant number of characters. You kill at least one character basically, and then
What route did you go down, Justin, or did you try all of them?
I just did the true pacifist route. I just wanted to get the good ending.
Yeah,
I liked a lot of the characters too much to actually kill them. I
same
might do
thing
a
actually.
genocide route at one point, but the final boss of that route is you probably all heard of Sans just from all the memes, right?
Yeah.
And he's actually a very famously difficult boss fight, which I don't know if I'm up to.
It would be fun though, attempting it.
Yeah. He's got a very good theme music though.
Yeah.
Have you has there been any work because I remember when Undertale came out, like it was such like a high praised game. Like people were like some people were even like saying it was like game of the year, all that stuff. Like they were saying it was that good. Do you think has Toby Fox like talked about anything about developing like another game to the series or like
Yeah, I was just talking about that Deltarune. The
no
sequel
no
he
no, I'm saying besides Deltarune. Like besides those two games.
I'm not
Has he
sure if
talked about
he's that far out yet of thinking like, oh, what do I want to do after Deltarune? I'm sure he has plans though of like, you know,
yeah,
he probably has like a story in his mind or something.
right. No, yeah, I was just wondering if there was
storyboard.
like any word, like if you said
Yeah,
anything.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I think he's helped out some other games. Um, one of the artists who worked on Undertale called Temi-chan. I think that's just what she goes by on the internet. I'm not sure her real name, but she also does indie games and she did a lot of art for Undertale.
Hmm,
And Toby Fox, I think he at least did music for some of her games.
nice. Do you know what some of her games are, like some of the titles she's released?
Yeah, I'm looking it up. There's Escaped Chasm. Uh, let's see, there's Escaped Chasm, Dweller's Empty Path. Okay. Oh, she worked on that Super Meat Boy sequel.
Oh,
Huh.
really?
Yeah, I mean, she's also in the game. If you remember the Temmie village, Chris, like you just find that random village of all the dog girl people
Right.
who all have the same name, except for the one whose name is Bob.
Uh-huh. And that's her. Or
That's like her self-insert. Yeah.
oh, cool. Okay. That's neat. I didn't know that. Any other games we want to talk about? I'm not like I haven't played a ton of indie games, if I'm being honest.
I mean,
Um,
So
I've got two indie games that I really liked that I got when they had like physical editions released on Switch, Bug Fables and Dusk. Now, Bug Fables, if you guys have ever played the original two Paper Mario games, the one on the N64 and Thousand Year Door for GameCube,
yeah.
it's like a throwback to that style of RPG.
Oh,
It was,
nice. I probably really like that then.
oh yeah, no, it's really great. It's like the three main, it's got instead of the silent Mario character, it's just a part. The party is just three main characters you follow through the whole time, and they all have a really fun dynamic with each other.
Cool.
The
I'll have
whole
to check that
supporting
out.
the whole supporting cast is really fun, except for this one guy who some people really hate, and I understand it. I don't hate him, but I understand why people would hate him. This little ball guy who you'll know him when you see him if you ever play it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
have
but it's
you?
like I'd say the game is roughly 20 to 30 hours. There's like a lot
Oh,
of side content, like a lot of side quests. Like it's a game where you can get sidetracked very easily.
yeah. I kind of like games like that every once in a while. Like I like linear games, but every once in a while I want to play a game where like there's a lot of side quests and you can just get lost in the world,
I,
in the
I
atmosphere.
I do like that every once in a while, but like my like ADHD, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this. Now I need to do this, and
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
Like
all
for me, it'll take me like 5 times as long to beat a game than like the average person just because I'm off doing like everything you can.
me too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm getting into the Souls games lately, and I have a
Yeah.
friend he's into the Souls games, but he says he doesn't like Elden Ring just because the open world is like I'd say maybe overwhelming. Like he gets sidetracked too much. Like
Yeah,
it's a
I
little
feel
too
that.
much. Like he he needs a little bit of linearity so he knows which path to follow because the Souls games already have a lot of exploration to them.
Yeah.
hmm yeah,
Yeah, that's one reason I never really got into Elden Ring actually. Um,
really.
I'm
Yeah.
the same way, yeah. I like
Um,
the old school Souls games.
yeah, I mean, I started Bloodborne, which I've talked about on the podcast
Yeah.
before, and I'm liking that a little more than Elden Ring, and part of it might just be because I know where I'm going a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
no, that
sure.
makes sense. Especially with those type of games, like it feels like a game like it should be linear. But I did play Elden Ring, and it's actually one of my like favorite like
Yeah.
single player games.
I do want to finish Bloodborne so then I can finish Elden Ring, so then I can play the Elden Ring sequel, the DLC when that comes out
DLC.
in June.
I
Yeah.
am looking for that. Looking towards that. But yeah, I played Elden Ring a lot. Like I beat it, I think I'm gonna say 2 or 3 times. I'm on like New Game Plus Plus. Like
Oh wow. I never
like
beat it, so like maybe I should go back and give another chance.
I'm still trying to get into the damn capital.
the
The
capital.
Draco
Yeah.
the Draconic Tree Sentinel is just kicking my butt so much. I
Um
hate him.
yeah, it's the
Those games
capital.
are so hard.
The capital is a hard area. I remember struggling so much, and
I
then
loved how when you start the game you're first attacked by the first tree sentinel who's like the first big enemy that can easily kill you. So
Mhm.
then it's fun going back later to finally kill him. And then I made my way to the capital and now there's two tree sentinels that I'd
yeah,
have to fight at once. I just skipped past them. Like I'm not doing this. I'm just gonna get inside the city. And then I
yeah,
meet the super tree sentinel guy. And
yeah,
that's as I said where I'm stuck right now.
yeah. I remember struggling in that area too. But they do have like a lot of good weapons and armor in that area. I remember, and like once you get it, you're like, if you start upgrading it, oh my gosh, you're like unstoppable. I remember there was like this heavy armor set where you look like a giant like fat knight. Um, and I would just rock that with a great sword. I do miss that
Have
feeling
you
actually. I need to
have you
get
guys ever heard of Let Me Solo Her?
yes,
Oh yeah.
but
Oh, I
I
had
do love
that.
Let Me Solar. Um,
And
All
you
right.
love it
yeah,
as
for
well.
those of you tuning in, who doesn't know who it is, it's this person plays Elden Ring, and they literally, I think that they don't have any clothes on, right, Justin?
They have like this bucket hat helmet.
The bucket at Elden, and
Some like tidy
um,
whities.
there's
Yeah,
this there's this boss in the game who is like notorious for being hard. Her name's Melania. Um,
Melania, I think it is. Yeah,
I forget the rest of her title, but it's
she's considered
Melania.
like the hardest boss in Souls history
Yeah.
in
Uh,
all the Souls games, and a
and
series known for their hard bosses.
yeah, and in Elden Ring you can and just like any other Dark Souls game, you can summon a friend or like just a stranger, like if you have like a certain item. Um, and the guy's name is Let Me Solo Her. So you summon him for the whole purpose of him soloing the boss, and you literally just sit back and watch, and he does it for you. But yeah, he's all over
And
the internet. He's all over TikTok and stuff like that. And
he was acknowledged by FromSoft Games too. They sent him a recreation of the weapon he uses in the game.
wait, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's
I,
actually
th-
that's
I think it
awesome.
was like part of a whole gift basket of stuff. Like how cool is that?
Yeah, I
That
know.
you're so good at the game, like that the devs just acknowledge you and send you that.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
pretty
a
awesome.
I remember I remember how many tries it took. Like it took so many tries to beat Melania. I wish I had Let Me Solo her with me. But I remember there are so many times when I'm playing that game, like you'd fight a boss for hours and hours on end, and you would get to the very end and die, and you're just like, this game, like, screw this game sucks, like, and you have to take a break.
Hmm.
You actually have to take a mental break from that game.
I'm like that's what I'm like with Souls games. Because I think this boss sucks, and then I finally figure out the key to beating him, and like, oh, this is actually really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do miss Elden Ring and the Souls series. I really wanted to replay Bloodborne, but the only problem is I don't have a PlayStation. My brother has it at home, so when I graduate, I'm definitely gonna start playing that again. But yeah.
Nice.
Um, Now back to the whole indie games. Have you guys ever heard of the game Fez?
Yeah, I've heard of
Yeah,
that.
I've heard of it.
Okay.
Heard of it, I've never played it.
Yeah, it was actually like the very first game when so back when before college. When I first got my PS4, um, it was the very first game I downloaded because it was like the free game of the month at the time. And it was
Okay.
a really cool take on just like platformer, like puzzle games. It's a mixture of 2D and 3D at the same time. So like you would like say if you're on like I don't, it's gonna be kind of hard to explain, but like you could rotate the screen with the bumpers on your controller to turn, the platform basically, or turn the perspective in the way you're seeing the two-dimensional world. So it's really three-dimensional, but like when you're playing, it's two-dimensional. It's so weird to describe, but like it's a really cool take on like platformer like puzzle games.
Yeah.
So if you haven't played it, I highly recommend it.
I'll have to play that. I'm looking at screenshots right now and like a little bit of gameplay, and it looks really sick. Like that's a really cool concept, how it's a
Yeah.
mix of 2D and 3D.
Yeah. Because I feel
I
like
like
not
that.
too many games do that really.
No.
Um,
You
but
guys should another 2D platformer I think you guys should all try. I talked about it before in the podcast, Pizza Tower.
yeah, you were mentioning that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All hands are on graphics. It's a very fluid feeling game when you're playing. And it's like you get all these different power-ups, but it feels like the game still flows like this. It's like a very liquid game. I'm not sure how I can explain it.
Hmm. Um,
Yeah, I'll have to check that out, Justin.
We're bad at
That's on
elaborating on this
Steam, I'm
stuff.
assuming, right?
Yeah, it's actually only on Steam right now, which is kind of
Yep.
weird because it was like one of the biggest indie games of the year when it came out, and it just there's been no word on a port anywhere.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Or anything else that you guys wanted to touch upon?
Hmm.
Wait a minute, hold up. I'm looking at like games right now. Um, was there a rumored Hades 2 that they're making a second Hades?
Yeah, they announced that.
They announced it. I think it's on it's gonna come out for early access for PC this year.
Damn,
Oh, nice.
I was totally unaware of this. When did they announce this?
I think in 2022. I think.
Really?
Wow.
Was that far back? That's crazy. I don't know why I'm just hearing about it now.
Well, that should be cool to see the reaction of that since Hades, the first Hades, was so like well renowned.
Yeah.
Actually,
Or
it looks like there's a technical test that's gonna happen really soon.
Like a beta test or
Yeah.
anything else, or should we wrap it?
There's one game I also wanted to mention that's called Umurangi Generation.
Morangi Generation.
That's on a couple different platforms. It's a game set in New Zealand during like a sort of dystopian future where you're just a photographer going from place to place during like it's very clear like there's some kind of catastrophe on the verge of happening, and you're just like a photographer taking pictures of different kind of things. Like you're just in different levels, like you're in a military outpost, you're on a subway train going somewhere, you're in the city square where people are being evacuated, and there's all these kind of different scenes going on every location. It was made by a person. The developer was Nef Neftali Faulkner, who is like a Maori, which is like a culture, like an indigenous culture from New Zealand. So there's a lot of that kind of spirituality in there as well. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm looking
yeah,
at
that sounds
screenshots
really
right
cool.
now. I'm really digging the art style.
Yeah. I mean, I played it. I got like around a little under 9 hours in. It's a very relaxing game to play, I'd say,
Hmm.
despite the fact that the subject matter is kind of bleak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Um, one indie game I really liked that I played, man, years ago. It was like a free game that I got on PlayStation Plus. Was Gone Home. Have you guys ever heard of that?
It rings a bell, but I'm not sure I
Yeah,
remember
what
what it's
is
Kind of
it?
like
about.
it's like a first person exploration, like story based game. It's like a mystery game, kind of like basically you arrive at this like big mansion and there's like no one home and you have to figure out what happened to like all these people that live there.
Oh, this
And
looks
that's what I'll
cool.
say without like spoiling it. Um, but it's an interesting game and I like the art
It's on
style.
sale, and it's on sale right now.
Is it? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's only $3.
$3.
Oh,
There you go. It's a short game. It probably only takes maybe 5 hours to beat. But
Oh yeah, Steam's having a whole FPS game sale right now.
nice. Yeah, I'd recommend Gone Home. It's a neat game.
yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like just like yeah, like kind of like the game Justin was mentioning. It just kind of looks like a very like relaxing game kind of thing.
Oh, it's very relaxing. Well, I will say like you have to like games where you do a lot of exploring and stuff. Like if you like really fast-paced games, like it's probably not for you. It's more
Right.
slower pace, but like also very intriguing to me though, because just the atmosphere you're in, like trying to discover what happened, like unravel the mystery.
Hmm.
I think is
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, I do love a good mystery game. I feel like there's not too many good ones, at least in recent years.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about that game Hypnospace Outlaw an episode or two ago. That's got a lot of mystery solving elements as you go between web pages to try and figure out different scenes that are going on.
Oh, right, right, yeah.
Especially in
Hypnospace
the
Outlaw.
late games,
Check
there's a
that out.
lot of investigation, like trying to think about what could mean what. Something you might really like, Liam.
Say that again? Sorry.
Hypnospace Outlaw, like the late game especially has like a lot of times where you need to do a lot of investigation, like
Oh, really?
think in your head about how different scenes might connect to each other,
Yeah, I'm looking at
trying to recall different like scenes you see from different people's web pages. It's a very fun game for that kind of stuff that
interesting.
you might really like.
Yeah, it does look interesting. Um,
And is that only on Steam, Justin? Or
Hypnospace Outlaw, I believe it's been ported to other consoles.
okay, cool. I might pick that up
I
on PlayStation.
yeah,
think it's on PlayStation.
Platforms, Xbox Cloud, Nintendo Switch, uh,
very interesting.
Yeah, it's on PlayStation
yeah,
4.
PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Okay, cool.
It has a very interesting art style and like,
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I love the art style actually. It's
Well,
very
yeah, it's just 90s internet. It's really cool.
90s
yeah,
internet, but like very like sci-fi-ish, you know?
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like set in an alternate history where one of the scenes is apparently the web browser you look on is like in lore is supposed to be something you connect to with a headset, so you browse the internet in your sleep.
Oh wow. That's
Yeah.
that's sick.
Yeah,
And there's a few other things you can find in the game that reveal the alternate history premise of the world. Like it's not something that's immediately revealed to you. It's stuff
Mhm.
you find out through other little tidbits.
Nice.
Sometimes those tidbits being very, very funny.
Hmm.
Like
I love a game with some good humor.
like as an example, you find a website where someone talks about how the popular sport tennis, which is like a sport played on a circular court with three players, it was actually ripped off from their like great uncle's creation of a game called tennis. And they talk about how this game made much more sense. It was a rectangular court with two people, and they're talking about this like it's something no one's ever heard of because in this world, the ripoff called tennis is what became the big popular sport.
That's really
like that.
funny. Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I'll pick that up on PlayStation.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
Yeah, for sure. Any other games we want to talk about before we wrap things up?
Uh, They're just looking at my Steam library. There's a 3D Metroidvania I really like called Pseudo Regalia. It's
Hmm.
like, what the fuck? My screen just went black.
I can see you on my end.
Yeah, I
Um,
can see it.
Yeah, this is.
Ew.
your Zoom
Oh,
screen or your
oh,
Steam?
I accidentally. I was looking at that game Pseudo Regalia that I was telling you about. I accidentally started it.
Uh,
Um,
Yeah, I closed it. But yeah, you're like this goat girl and like this castle. Again, it's like a Metroidvania, so you're exploring all these different areas, finding upgrades so you can explore further. It's a Metroidvania and it's done. Those are harder to pull off in 3D, but it does it very well.
cool. Um, yeah. Justin, you have a lot of good game recommendations.
yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I don't have much else to say right now, I think. Oh yeah, Amori is one I meant to get around to with
Hmm.
that's just another RPG maker game. It's got the it's a horror-esque game. I don't know if I want to fully call it horror because that's only near the late game where those elements really come in.
Mhm.
All right.
But it's like you're playing it like as a kid in this dreamscape, and you can tell this kid's got this other stuff that they're not revealing. It's almost like an unreliable narrator game.
Okay. Sweet. How do you said it's called Emori?
Omori,
Mhm.
Omori.
Okay.
It was made by this artist called Omo
Yeah.
Cat, who's pretty popular, and it was like something she'd been working on for about a decade.
Oh, I like the really like simplistic like sketch style, at least
Yeah, I
with
like
cover
that.
art.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
It was in development for like 10 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That looks cool. Alrighty, should we wrap things up with that?
Yeah, a bit of a
Yeah.
shorter episode this week, but it was a
Yeah.
fun one.
I
Yeah.
think it's just different because we're on Zoom and it's just not our
Yeah.
Yeah.
forte.
Yeah. Always a different
Um,
vibe on Zoom.
but yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of
This was
Pump.
Palm Blisters.
Um, don't I don't think we have a topic for next week, do we?
Not quite yet.
No.
Not
Not
quite
yet.
yet. Well, so
We'll
it'll be a
think of
little bit
something
of
good.
yeah, it'll be just something good. But
Yeah.
yeah, and hopefully next week we'll be in person. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Later.
All right,
Peace.
out.